lines there for the offertory, I think you pretty much gave a whole sermon there on encouragement. Those were very encouraging words. While researching this, I actually come across something by Rick Perry on words of encouragement, and it was all written up about the Holy Trinity. He talked about the Father and the Son and the Trinity. That's 1, 2, Father and Son. Whoops. Well, so how do you encourage? And I think one of the best ways for us to encourage others is for us to be a good witness to others, to be able to tell them how God has been in our lives, so that they can see how that God would fit in their lives. And I did some work on talking about being a witness, and I wonder if any of you have ever been a witness in a court of law. And I'm sure that Mark and some of the others have spent their fair share in court. Well, I was only ever a witness once, and it was a really, really interesting experience to be a witness in a court of law. And it wasn't anything like you see on Law and Order. There wasn't anything earth-shattering. It was just very slow, very matter-of-fact, and a lot of yes or no answers with no room for any long dissertations or discussion of the events. And my case wasn't glamorous or anything. It was there was a sergeant that worked in my squadron that was being accused of being drunk on duty, and he was being processed for discharge. Well, one good thing about the military is if you're close to your retirement, if you're going to be processed for discharge, they always put you through court rather than just let some commander put you out, so they can make sure that nobody gets railroaded out right at the end so that they miss out on their military pension. And I knew this guy pretty well. He lived up the street from us. He worked in the squadron under my charge. And on 2 occasions I was called in the middle of the night to go and retrieve him from the British constabulary because he was picked up for drunken driving. I knew this guy was struggling with alcohol, but the most serious charge was being drunk on duty. And I was actually called as a witness for the defense. And again, it was a blunt, matter-of-fact, yes or no answers. Question 1 was, did I ever see him drink while at work? And I had to answer no. Did I ever actually smell the alcohol on his breath? And I have a really poor sense of smell, so I had to answer no, I had not. There wasn't like this, the glove does not fit moment in that courtroom. It was just a few questions. Well, I was reading the criteria for what you'd want to be if you were going to be a good witness. And the first thing it said is to know the testimony. Don't get argumentative. Be factual, be articulate, and most of all, be credible. Well, we were all mesmerized by the OJ trial a few years back, and by some of the other recent trials that they seem to show on CNN whenever something happens that they want to pick out, and then you spend up weeks watching that particular trial. But usually the defense strategy is to simply destroy the credibility of the prosecution witnesses. If you remember back in OJ, there was a police officer, Mark Furman, and their whole case was to destroy his credibility. That made all the evidence that he found, no matter how damning it could be or how astronomical the improbabilities of it being false were, all of his evidence crumbled. Well, when I was a witness, my credibility was established by the fact that I was a chief and a flight chief that interacted with him daily. And that although others in my squadron had personally smelled alcohol on him, I just couldn't smell it. So if we look at those criteria, what if you were a witness for Christ, using that witness to encourage others? First, you need to know the testimony. So first, start looking at the scriptures. We have written accounts of God's interaction with man from the very beginning. We need to know about how Adam fell from the Garden of Eden. We need to know about Lot and Abraham and Moses. And we need to know about David and Elijah. And most of all, we need to know about John the Baptist and Jesus himself and how he interacted with the early Christians and how they acted after meeting him. We are a blessed people because in addition to those testimonies in the Bible, we have the full gospel in the Book of Mormon as well. And we continue to see God's work with us today. Know the Gospels. If you know the teachings, Then when you're questioned and you're cross-examined, you have accounts and teachings of centuries to draw from. You can understand and withstand what the Sadducees of our day are trying to do when they try to use your own words against you. Mostly, you have the tools to testify to those who do not know the word, those who are most in need of encouragement. It's crucial that if someone is searching for the truth and questioning, that when they cross-examine your beliefs, you have understanding and confidence and assurity when you answer them back. Who would you rather see on the witness stand? The person who says, I think, or the person who says, I know? Who would you rather have encouraging you to be a witness for you? Would you rather be with a group that flounders, or would you rather be a group that is determined and purposeful? When you're witnessing, you need to be articulate. It's important that when you present the truth, you put it in such a way that it's understood. You cannot be a witness and encourage others if you have trouble developing your own message. Lots of times when I'm presenting facts, I don't always know what to say other than what I've said the first time. One of the complaints in our house is when I'm helping tutor math, if the person doesn't get it the first time, all I can do is keep repeating that same message over and over again. I just can't think of another way to teach that math than the way I've known. But the more you know about a subject, the more you have ways that you can relate it in other avenues. You can choose a different example or different instances rather than just pounding that same fact over that they don't get. Well, there are 4 Gospels in the Bible. Each one tells the story of Christ in a slightly different slant. It helps those who don't see the correct message in one Gospel get a chance to be able to see that message and understand it in one of the others. And again, we are a blessed people. We don't just have the 4 Gospels, but we have other accounts of Nephi as he spoke to Christ. And other Gospels put things in other contexts so that you can get that message in a slightly different way, to articulate the truth in a manner that your message is understood, a manner that could be encouraging to those other people. Lastly, you need to be credible. Have the ability to tell the gospel story that it would be believed. I was once questioned by somebody very, very close to me about the credibility of the Book of Mormon. And I was able to tell them that message and first establish my assurance in its authenticity, of things that I had seen firsthand. That one time when we went down to the Yucatan, I was in this temple and I saw firsthand the carvings of a bearded white man who had said that he was not God but the Son of God and there to teach them about God. And when I looked up the history of that temple, it had been abandoned hundreds of years before the sailing of the Vikings, before they had ever reached Newfoundland. So it's good to know your facts and your corroborating evidence so that you can establish your credibility. One of the other ways to establish your credibility and to help encourage others is to live a Christ-like life yourself, so that your life itself establishes credibility and encouragement. That people look at you and they say, not only do you preach it and teach it, but you live it. There was an article once that I read in Downs Times about a pastor of one of the mega churches around here. And the pastor had a past himself that nobody would really want. When he was a young man, he got involved with drugs. And he ended up so deep into the lifestyle that he ended up killing someone. He was sentenced, convicted, and did his time in prison. And while he was incarcerated, he found the Lord. And when he was set free, he didn't want to be just one of those cliched people with the jailhouse Jesus that immediately goes back to his old lifestyle. But he wanted to continue on. And he started getting involved in churches and grew in his position and his faith. And pretty soon he had many followers. But his message was lost on one person. It was lost on the son of his victim. Because of his past, they'll never have credibility with that person to be able to tell them with conviction the story of his conversion. How many more are lost on his message because of his past? If you have you must also be a credible witness. How many people believe your sincerity if you're not living a Christ-like life yourself? Would you encourage them or discourage them with your actions? Do you succumb to the sins of the world, or do you believe that what you say, knowing Christ, will make you a happier person? Your living example gives credibility and testimony that can be cross-examined on its own. You encourage others by being a credible witness. The word witness is one of those words in the English language that has a number of meanings. It's not just one word. Witness also could be being a witness, that you were there to actually see it. Being that person that watched it happen, like at a wedding. Because they always have witnesses they have to sign that said that they actually saw the wedding happen. You must be able to see those miracles that are happening around you to be that witness, though. There are so many miracles around us that happen all the time. And a number of people try to ignore them. They try to rationalize them away or work to disprove them, saying that it didn't happen in the first place. I once saw this documentary about a man who had lost his sight when he was a little boy. And with modern technology, they were able to restore his sight so he would have 20/20 vision. But what happened was because he had lost his sight at such an early age, his mind never really learned how to interpret the images that his eyes were giving him. And because of this, although he could see and his eyes were equipped to be 20/20, he still had to walk with a cane because he couldn't recognize what was happening right in front. He would walk right off curves, bump into things, because although his eyes were giving his mind a message, his mind failed to recognize what was happening. I think people are like that with miracles of the Lord. I think that if they've never learned to see them, they don't believe what's right in front of their eyes. Their mind doesn't comprehend to understand the power of the Lord working right in front of them. We need to teach people how to witness the miracles that they see all around them. How to recognize what's happening and how not to discourage others. Conversely, if you were sitting on a railroad track, just because you fail to see the train coming doesn't mean that it's not going to hit you. In our schools, look at the debate concerning creation. Here is a miracle that's happened, yet there are those who want to believe that everything that's about you and I is nothing more than just an accident of chemistry. They fail to recognize that we were created in the image of our Maker. We are a witness to change what we see in people who have truly accepted Christ. We know how to recognize when we've seen Christ work in someone's life and how it changes them, how it changes their direction, how people go from serving self to serving a higher purpose. The apostles were some of the first people called to be witnesses to the miracles of Jesus Christ. They were called to validate what had actually happened. They saw Christ both before and after his resurrection. And not only were they witnesses to the event, but they were changed by it. They carried their conviction right until the end of their lives. They faced torture and persecution, but they wouldn't break. Now, if you compare that to some of the modern stories of just the people that were in Richard Nixon's inner circle. Richard Nixon's circle had everything to gain by sticking to their lie. But they couldn't last with that lie for more than 2 weeks. Once the pressure was on them, they all broke. They fell from the path one by one. Now, when you go back to the 11 remaining disciples after Christ's crucifixion, every one of them had everything to gain by turning away from the truth. But they, just think, if they had just recanted their stories, they would have ended their persecution and been able to blend back into obscurity. But not a single one recanted their story. Not a single one turned away from the resurrection of Christ. Like all those in the Bible, we too are a witness to attest that Christ brings miracles. Just in our congregation, we've witnessed things like bones healing overnight, cancer disappearing in a manner that left some of the best doctors in the country confounded. We've witnessed rain that won't wet you. We've witnessed storms that have uprooted trees but wouldn't blow over a single tent. We've witnessed miracles, and your names are on the affidavit for the Lord. Now that you know the testimony and we know the scriptures and the power of the Lord, we are to witness and encourage others. We've established our credibility. We are the people who can be believed. Now that leads us to another form of witness. Like I said, witness is one of those words that has multiple meanings in the English language. Witness is a noun, naming the person who saw it happen. It's a verb that you saw it, you witnessed it happening. And now it's an action word too, that you need to go out and witness to others, telling them or convince them of the power of the Lord. I'd like to read to you from 1 Peter. The elders among you I exhort, whom I'm also an elder, and a witness for the suffering of Christ, and a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight, therefore, not by constraint, but by willingness, not for filth or liquor, but of a ready mind. And I'd also like to read from John, chapter 21. So when they had dined, Jesus said unto Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than others? And he said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou know that I lovest thee. And he said unto him, Feed my lambs. He said unto him again a second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou know that I lovest you. And he said unto him, Feed my sheep. He said unto him a third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? And Peter was grieved because he had said it unto him a third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. And Jesus said unto him, Feed my sheep. These are two examples where the Lord tells us to go out and actively witness to others, to give them his message of encouragement. This was the third definition of being a witness. This is actively going out to testify of the Lord, that we know his message, that we actively are telling others of his power and his glory, that we tell others how wonderful life is and how much you're changed when you live it in a Christ-like manner. I know that you've all told each other what the Lord has done in your life. I know that each one of you is telling others in the congregation of the miracles that's happened in your life. Well, we must be a witness for Christ, and we must remember that we are commanded to feed his sheep. But we must also remember that the Lord has sheep that are not of this fold. We must be a witness beyond these four walls. We must know the word, we must be articulate, we must be credible, and we must be actively witnessing to those in need. Just as we're told that a physician is not for the healthy, we're a blessed congregation because we have a congregation full of physicians. But there are many out there that are in need of your help and your encouragement. You've witnessed the miracles of the Lord.